Restoring Yahweh's truth, revealing Yeshua's awakening. The greatest deception in modern faith is not open rebellion. It is subtle forgetfulness. It is the quiet drift away from original truth while still maintaining the language of belief. It is possible to attend gatherings, sing sacred songs, quote scripture, and even build religious institutions while slowly losing sight of the central reality that should define everything. Yahweh alone is sovereign, and Yeshua alone is the revealed path through which humanity is reconciled to divine truth. This is why the worldwide truth ecumenical movement is not about building another institution, another denomination, or another temporary system of agreement among religious people. It is a global awakening back to original alignment, an intentional return to truth that predates human traditions, denominational structures, and cultural distortions. Across the world, people are experiencing unprecedented exhaustion, not merely physical fatigue, but spiritual fatigue. There is a growing weariness inside the human soul because humanity has attempted to build meaning without transcendence, morality without accountability, unity without truth, and spirituality without surrender. This has created a generation that is connected digitally, but fragmented internally. People have access to more information than ever before, yet possess less wisdom. They have endless content, but very little conviction. They have spiritual language, but often no spiritual clarity. They have passion without direction and enthusiasm without foundation. The result is confusion disguised as progress. The worldwide truth ecumenical movement exists because humanity cannot heal through endless fragmentation. The world does not need more competing ideologies. It needs restoration. It needs a return to first principles. It needs a rediscovery of what was always true before institutions complicated it. Yahweh's truth is not evolving. It is not adapting to culture. It is not waiting for human approval. It stands outside time. It existed before governments formed, before economies developed, before social systems emerged, and before civilizations learned how to organize themselves. Truth is not invented, it is revealed. For too long, faith communities have mistaken loyalty to tradition for loyalty to Yahweh. But tradition can become a veil when it prevents revelation. Structures can become prisons when they stop serving truth. Ritual can become idolatry when it replaces intimacy. The worldwide truth ecumenical movement challenges every person to examine what they have inherited. Not everything handed down is holy. Not everything familiar is faithful. Not everything repeated is righteous. Some inherited beliefs need to be purified by truth. Some inherited fears need to be dismantled by revelation. Some inherited divisions need to be healed through humility. This movement begins with a simple but radical confession. Yahweh is not divided, therefore truth cannot ultimately remain fragmented. Human beings have divided what heaven intended to remain whole. We created camps, tribes, labels, and theological walls. We protected our interpretations as though Yahweh required our defense. Yet divine truth does not need protection. It needs honest surrender. The ecumenical impulse of this movement is not compromise, it is purification. It is not about lowering standards to create artificial unity. It is about stripping away distortions so authentic unity can finally emerge. Yeshua prayed that his people would be one, not because unity is aesthetically pleasing, but because unity reveals reality. Fragmentation distorts witness, division weakens authority. When truth becomes tribal, it loses credibility before the world. But when truth is embodied collectively through humility, integrity, and love, it becomes undeniable. The worldwide truth ecumenical movement calls believers, seekers, skeptics, and communities back into that shared alignment, not sameness, but harmony. Not forced conformity, but unified surrender to what is eternally true. The crisis of this age is not merely moral, it is ontological. People no longer know who they are. Identity has become unstable because it has been disconnected from origin. Humanity cannot understand itself apart from its creator. When Yahweh is removed from the center, identity collapses into performance. People begin constructing themselves through external validation, political affiliation, social approval, productivity, appearance, and endless self-definition. But none of those foundations can hold the weight of a human soul. They crack under pressure. They fracture during suffering. They collapse during crisis. The Worldwide Truth Ecumenical Movement restores the original answer. Your identity is not self-created. It is divinely received. You were not designed to invent yourself. You were designed to discover yourself through relationship with Yahweh. That discovery becomes possible through Yeshua, because Yeshua does not merely teach truth, he embodies it. He is not merely a messenger, he is revelation in living form. To encounter him is to encounter reality itself. This movement insists that awakening begins internally before it manifests externally. Reform cannot be sustained if it is only institutional. Revival cannot be maintained if it is only emotional. Transformation begins when the human heart is reordered. Before nations can heal, households must heal. Before households can heal, individuals must heal. Before individuals can heal, the hidden interior life must be surrendered. That is why the Worldwide Truth Ecumenical Movement emphasizes personal consecration as much as collective restoration. Every participant is invited into rigorous honesty. Where have you compromised? Where have you substituted performance for surrender? Where have you defended ego in the name of doctrine? Where have you prioritized being right over being transformed? These are not accusations, they are invitations. Truth does not humiliate, it liberates. This liberation requires humility because truth often disrupts comfort. Yahweh's voice rarely flatters our assumptions. It exposes them. It confronts our pride. It dismantles our false securities. It removes the idols we secretly trust more than Him. Sometimes those idols are obvious: money, power, approval. Sometimes they are disguised as noble things: ministry, reputation, influence, even theology. Anything that competes with surrender must be pruned. The Worldwide Truth Ecumenical Movement therefore calls for spiritual courage. It takes courage to question inherited systems. It takes courage to leave familiar dysfunction. It takes courage to admit where we have been wrong. It takes courage to return to simplicity after years of complexity. Yet this courage is essential because awakening is impossible without disruption. Across continents, this disruption is already happening. Young people are questioning empty religiosity. Older generations are reevaluating assumptions they once held without examination. Leaders are admitting burnout. Institutions are confronting irrelevance. Communities are rediscovering prayer. Families are reclaiming sacred rhythms. Individuals are learning how to sit in silence again. These are not isolated trends, they are signals of awakening. But awakening must be protected. Every genuine movement of truth faces dilution. The temptation always appears: institutionalize it too quickly, commercialize it too aggressively, politicize it too easily, personalize it too narcissistically. The Worldwide Truth Ecumenical Movement must resist these traps. Its mission is not expansion for expansion's sake. Its mission is fidelity. Fidelity means remaining anchored in Yahweh's character. Truth without love becomes cruelty. Love without truth becomes sentimentality. Power without humility becomes abuse. Humility without conviction becomes passivity. This movement seeks balance through alignment with divine character itself. Yahweh is both holy and compassionate. Yeshua is both truthful and merciful. Therefore, awakening must embody both. The practical implications are profound. This movement calls communities to recover sacred practices, not as empty rituals, but as living disciplines. Prayer becomes less transactional and more relational. Scripture becomes less informational and more transformational. Worship becomes less performative and more reverent. Service becomes less strategic and more compassionate. Leadership becomes less hierarchical and more accountable. Fellowship becomes less superficial and more courageous. It also calls individuals to reclaim responsibility. The future cannot be outsourced to leaders alone. Every person must become a steward of truth. Every household must become a sanctuary. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to embody integrity. Every decision becomes a chance to align with eternal reality. This is why the worldwide Truth Ecumenical Movement is not passive. It is deeply active. It restores education rooted in wisdom rather than ideology. It encourages economic stewardship rooted in justice rather than greed. It promotes leadership rooted in character rather than charisma. It strengthens families through intentional covenant. It elevates local communities through service. It engages the world not with fear, but with courageous hope. Hope is essential because many people have become cynical. They have seen institutions fail. They have seen leaders disappoint. They have seen hypocrisy wound communities. Their trust has been damaged. The worldwide Truth Ecumenical Movement does not deny those wounds. It acknowledges them honestly, but it refuses to let disappointment become destiny. Human failure does not invalidate divine truth. It only reveals how desperately we need it. This movement also reminds humanity that urgency matters. Time is not infinite. Every generation receives a stewardship window. What we do now shapes what comes next. Delay has consequences. Apathy has consequences. Silence has consequences. Neutrality is not harmless when truth is eroding. Every person must decide what they will align with. Will you align with convenience or conviction? Will you align with noise or truth? Will you align with performance or surrender? Will you align with fragmentation or restoration? These questions define the moment. The worldwide Truth Ecumenical Movement is ultimately an invitation, not a coercion. Yahweh does not force awakening, He invites it. Yeshua does not manipulate surrender, He models it. The Spirit does not overpower the unwilling heart, He whispers to the willing one. That whisper is being heard across the earth. It is calling people back to sacred simplicity, back to covenant, back to holiness, back to courage, back to clarity, back to truth. Not everyone will respond. Some will prefer comfort. Some will defend old systems. Some will mock the call that has always happened. But those who hear and respond will become anchors in a collapsing age. They will become households of peace in chaotic neighborhoods. They will become voices of wisdom in confused cultures. They will become servants of reconciliation in divided communities. They will become living testimonies that truth still transforms human beings. That is the awakening being revealed. Not louder religion, not better branding, not stronger institutions, restored hearts, renewed minds, reconciled communities, consecrated lives. This is what it means to restore Yahweh's truth and reveal Yeshua's awakening. The invitation is here now. Come out of confusion. Come out of fragmentation. Come out of inherited fear. Come out of borrowed certainty. Come out of spiritual performance. Return to the source. Return to Yahweh. Let truth refine what culture distorted. Let surrender heal what pride fractured. Let humility rebuild what ego destroyed. Let love repair what division broke. And let this generation become known, not for how loudly it argued, but for how faithfully it returned. That is the calling. That is the movement. That is the awakening.